Today we're going to be making Aloo Matar Pulao. That is basically peas and potato rice.
I really need you to hear what I'm saying.
When it comes to making rice, I like to be quite prepared. So I like to do all my prep before. So what we're going to start by doing first of all is to wash and soak our rice. Okay, so like I mentioned, I have 2 cups of basmati rice here, which I measured using this glass. So whichever glass or cup you use to measure your rice, you can use the same one to measure your water. That's important. So we're going to wash and soak our rice. Important to wash your rice because you're going to get rid of the starch that is in your rice so it doesn't be too sticky. So this takes a few washes, at least 3 or 4 times of putting water in there and then just spilling it out. So I like to start off by washing and soaking the rice because the rice needs about 15 to 20 minutes to like soak a little bit. So it's good to do this first so that by the time you get to adding it into your pot, it's already been soaking for that long. So once you've washed your rice and the water has run clear, you just need to add some more water into your bowl and just let it soak in the bowl whilst you get on with the rest of your prep. We've washed our rice. The next thing we're going to prep is our potatoes. Okay, so we're going to peel them first of all. Just going to cut them into like inch size pieces, I'd say. So just chop like that, and if you've got any extra like eyes or anything that you want to cut off, just chop them off as well. So I like to cut them in chunks that are roughly about this size, so like about an inch size piece. So we've got our potatoes cut to roughly the same size. We're just going to give them a quick wash and then we're going to leave them to soak as well, because if we leave them like this they might go brown by the time we put them in. So we're just going to soak them a little bit once we've given them a wash. Okay, just give them a quick wash. Potatoes are washed and soaked. We're just going to put them to the side. The next thing we're going to prep is our onions. Just peeling our onions. Just going to slice your onions thinly, okay, as thin as you can. Don't have to be too worried about how perfect they are, but just basically just try and slice them as thin as you can. So that's our onion chopped, just like so. Last thing we have to prep is the spices, which I like to do beforehand as well, so I can just bung them all in at the same time. So my rule of thumb for rice is 1 heaped teaspoon of salt per cup of rice. And obviously you can taste it when you put just before you put the rice onto steam. You can taste it and add more in if you need to. So we've got 2 cups, so we're adding 2 heaped teaspoons of salt. So instead of using regular fine black pepper, coarsely ground black pepper makes a real big difference in the flavour that you're going to get for your rice, and that is where most of the flavour is going to come from. So we want to need a heaped teaspoon of coarsely ground black pepper, a couple of dried bay leaves that add a really nice fragrance, half a stick of cinnamon or dalchini, okay, 2 large black cardamom pods as well, a teaspoon of cumin seeds, okay, cumin seeds, teaspoon of those, a few whole black peppers, so about 3 or 4 is enough. Okay, just peppercorns. You can also add cloves in too. If you've got cloves, you can add a couple of those in. A teaspoon of coarsely ground coriander, a teaspoon of cumin powder as well. Okay, so we're going to start cooking our rice now. So let's put the heat on first of all. And then the first thing we're going to go in is with our oil. We go in with our onions that we sliced earlier. We're going to cook our onions until they have browned, okay? So an important thing to remember when you're cooking brown rice is that the darker your onions are, is the darker the colour of your rice is going to be. So if your onions are like really dark brown, then your rice will be really dark brown as well. So the colour of your onions will determine the colour of your rice. Whilst they're browning, I'm just going to get some water in this glass, because we need about half a cup of water to put into our onions and also to help our potatoes cook as well. About half a cup, and we're not going to put it in just yet. We're just going to keep it to the side. We're going to add it once our onions have browned, okay? So this part is which probably takes the most amount of time in my opinion. The browning of the onions, and you have to be really patient with it and just gradually just keep stirring them every so often until they start to get some color on them. Okay, so when they start changing color, yeah, you need to keep an eye on them at this point so you don't burn them too much. Okay, and we are here like at this stage. Okay, this is the stage where you're gonna add in your water now. Now be careful because it will splash. You're adding water into hot oil, so you want to move away and just be very, very careful when you do. We're not going to add all of this water, we're just going to add half of this water, okay? So about 1/4 cup. That releases the colour of our onions, so the water has gone dark. Okay, our potatoes that we cut earlier, they're going to go in. So all our spices that we prepped earlier, they're going in as well. We're going to saute this just for a couple of minutes so that the onions and the potatoes take on that fragrance and spice and flavour, okay? Add the rest of that water in here. Okay, and I'm going to put the lid on and I'm going to turn it down to a low heat. And I'm going to let the potatoes steam in there for a little bit, for a few minutes, okay? For about five or 6 minutes. So our potatoes are almost fully cooked, but not completely cooked. As you can see, the knife is going in easily, but not completely. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and add in our peas. We're going to put the heat back on high. And we're going to saute our peas in here. And can you see I've got a little bit of excess water, so I want to dry that water out, because if I leave this excess water in here, what's going to happen is my measurement for my water for my rice is going to be off, and then my rice is going to go soggy. So we need to pretty much dry out the water that's in here, okay? Pretty much dried off. It's mostly just onions and oil in there. My rule of thumb for measuring the water is twice the amount of water to rice, and then you take away 1/2 cup. So we've got 2 cups of rice, so we're going to add 3.5 cups of water, okay? 1, 2, 3.5. Okay, I put cold water in there. You can put boiling water in there if you want to. If you do that, you just want to let this come to a boil now before adding the rice in. Okay, so it's come to a boil. So we're going to go ahead and add in our rice. Now don't add any more water with the rice, okay? Just the rice we're adding in at this point. The washed and soaked rice. At this point I'm going to switch my spatula to like something like this with some holes in it, so we're not breaking the rice up. So we're just boiling this now until the rice absorbs most of the water. We're going to leave a tiny bit of water in there for it to be able to steam. Gently just see how much water is left. Keep an eye on it, because at this point you want to make sure you don't break your rice, okay? So this is almost ready to go steam. As you can see, there's still a little bit of water left in there. So we're going to dry a little bit more out. We're also going to taste the rice at this point. Just be careful and just taste a couple of grains and see if the salt is right. And if you think it needs more salt at this point, now is the time to add it in. Rice tastes best when it has the right amount of salt in there. So this is ready to be steamed now, okay? Because you see, majority of the water has dried out. So I'm just going to give it a shake, and then I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to put it on the low heat, and I have a hole here in my pot, so I'm just going to bob a tea towel on top of it to cover that hole. If you don't have a hole in your lid, you don't have to even bother doing that. A lot of people do a whole thing where they wrap the whole lid in a tea towel and stuff, and you know, I don't think it's necessary in my opinion to do that. All you need to do is make sure you've got a good fitting lid, bob it on, put your rice on low and make sure there's no holes, and then you're just going to leave it to steam. You're just going to leave your rice to steam like that for about 15 minutes, okay? Once it's ready, look at that. Exciting. You can get yourself a fork or something like that, right? And you just want to like fluff out your rice a little bit. Just don't break it, okay? Just fluff it out. Be careful, the potatoes are very soft. Plate yourself up some rice, okay? Here is our steaming plate of Aloo Matar Pulao. Okay, perfectly cooked rice, which is so super soft, which is the way I like it, okay? But also it's not too mushy. The potatoes are cooked well, but they're not completely falling apart, okay? So this is how you want your rice to look like. Let's try it. It's a bit hot at the moment. Don't want to make my mouth there. Bismillah. Oh my god, I love this stuff. This was Aloo Matar Pulao today. Thank you so much for supporting me and my page and being so patient and always just being so interactive and just being an amazing audience and amazing bunch of followers. Honestly, I couldn't ask for any better followers. You are so good and so kind and thoughtful and amazing. Honestly, I wouldn't be here without you, so thank you so much. Take care of yourselves, everybody. Take care of your families. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.